evening, Blood Bowl fans. Tabletop General checking in here, bringing you some exciting Blood Bowl action. Tonight we are proud to be bringing you the Coldblood Cup, a Game of the Week selection out of our Get Medieval Blood Bowl League. Specifically, tonight's matchup features two cold-blooded teams, even though one doesn't exactly look it. We are going to be featuring RBD's Revenge, a Lizardman team that some of you might have seen from my match last week. Currently holding down the 5th out of 6 playoff spots in our league as we're just passing the halfway point, versus Long Live the Slann, a Kislev circus team, but we all know that there's really frogs hiding underneath those human costumes there. And the Long Live the Slann are in the number 6 out of 6 playoff spots. Winner advances, theoretically, and the loser of tonight's match has some ground to make up over these last few games as we start to get into the home stretch of our third season here. You'll note that there is quite a substantial team value difference between the two. Long Live the Slann is actually the highest team value out of any of our teams at the present moment in the competition. Let's take a look. So, this has scary written all over it just from the number of icons here, but 90%, well, not 90%, but 75% of these are built-in skills. All of our humans, or basically everyone other than the tame bear in a Kislev team, is going to be equipped with the long legs and leap skills. There's jump up and diving tackle on all 4 of the blitzers. And the catcher comes with diving catch, I believe, as their first skill. Yes. So that takes care of a large majority of this, but some things to point out here. Number one, the Slann are rolling with a 13-player lineup. Looks like 11 out of the 13 players have at least one skill up. There are 3 copies of guard on linemen. Lots of block sprinkled in, along with a little bit of wrestle. And a couple of skill ups here. A plus agility blitzer, a plus movement and plus strength lineman, and a plus strength catcher that pretty much brings him up to normal. This catcher in particular is intriguing because he sort of sets up to play both sides of the ball. He's got wrestle to bring down opposing ball carriers, but he also has dodge and sure hands to, well, actually, is that dodge or is that catch? I always get those icons confused. It is dodge. So dodge and sure hands to act as a ball carrier himself, and the strength up to make him almost a normal real boy. So the Kislev team here is carrying 4 rerolls, which is pretty much what you expect out of a Kislev team, if not slightly higher, just because they do lean pretty hard on that leap skill. Then our competition for the night, RBD's Revenge, is currently about 300,000 gold below the team value of the Kislev, but that is before we note that they currently have a 10 player lineup. They're missing one of their skinks. Still kind of sorry about that. Maybe not. I don't know. Don't have the money to replace it here, but they will be picking up a mercenary, so that will be eating into their inducements a little bit. And here we've got sort of the tale of 2 halves. We've got our big heavy Sarai with the Croc score sprinkled in. Total of 5 copies of dodge across the list and 6 instances of block for folks that are going to be looking to stand up on the line and put a pounding on the opponent. And then 3 highly developed skinks that really want to be annoying and get upfield and snag the ball out of your backfield and score on you quickly. Just my personal feelings on the match, especially after how I approached playing against this team last week. There's not enough skinks here. The ones that are here are good. They've got dodge and catch and sidestep across the board, and then a smattering of skills beyond that. But there's just not enough actual bodies here. Those skinks, defensive skills or not, are going to go down. Just with strength 2, you're going to throw enough dice at them that they're going to go away. Armor 7, they're going to go away. Stunty, they're going to go away. You've got to have more bodies there to survive the grind of a full game. Especially if the Kislev go on offense first and hold on to the ball for a few minutes before giving the Lizardman a shot at it. We're looking at 2 of the skinks very possibly being down before they even look at moving the ball. And then after your skinks, you've just got agility 1 all across the board for your other players that they're never going to even pick up the ball except in a desperation situation, and then they're going to fail to pick up the ball. Just my 2 cents. Anyway, so that's my quick discussion on the teams involved. It is now 9:30 p.m. local, which is exactly when these 2 coaches said that they were going to kick things off. So hopefully I've timed this about right, and we can log into Cabal TV and find ourselves a match about to get kicked off. And here we go, right there. Hopefully we haven't missed any of the action. It's one of the most annoying parts about the idea of trying to broadcast someone else's games is you always tend to miss the very start. There's no way to set up and get yourself in during the inducement phase. So hopefully we're not going to join a game that's too deep in progress. And no, we are still in the setup phase. And pouring rain is going to make things, not to say more difficult for the Kislev team. -1 modifier for catch, intercept, and pickup rolls. The skinks, well, the skinks are agility 3 too. For some reason I was expecting them to be higher. So it looks like the Kislev are kicking off to the Lizardman. That is indeed the case. And the rain is gone. So much for that possible strategic decision to have given up the first turn on offense during the rain. I do note that RBD's Revenge did pick up a wizard here. I'm assuming they also picked up, yes, they did pick up another reroll. They were carrying 3 before. So those are their inducements for the match. Nothing scummed over here. The fame roll did go into RBD's Revenge's favor. Now, let me swap things around and get from the offensive player's point of view. Something that personally I've just started maybe coming around on, but I'm seeing more and more out of my league mates here. Starting the big guy off the line of scrimmage for the Kislev. Yeah, I guess it gives you the ability to put him where he's most useful, especially in the case of something like the tame bear that has a prehensile tail that might help lock down some of these skinks that are wanting to dodge by. But I'm personally always in favor of making sure that the big guys get a opportunity to take a swing at the opponent every round. There's one more difficult block that isn't going to be an auto pass, just like anybody taking a swing at a lineman would be. And you never want to give up your blitz to get them into the fight. Again, just personal opinion there. With that being said, as the Kislev start their turn, this wouldn't be the worst of times to send that bear blitzing in and looking to take down a skink, perhaps this one right here that does not have block or wrestle. Get that diving tackle out of there with a lucky injury roll and get some tackle zones on here. On the opposite side of things, you've only got so many to go around, but I'm very surprised to see the ball in the hands of the loner for the Lizardman. I guess maybe they're figuring he's going to be the target. All right, so no blitz, but we did at least engage the skinks. It'll make it harder for both of these guys to dodge away. Truthfully, probably a smart move, because now you've got the opportunity to still get your blitz, whether that ended up failing with a bonehead or not, where you can send somebody in against the skinks and still potentially take one down. Now, kind of curious where all of our guard pieces are. It looks like 2 of them ended up on the line of scrimmage. And one of them ended up sitting out on the bench for the first half, or at least first possession. That's an interesting choice. I'm not sure that I agree with. The more guard on the field, the better. But given how developed this team is already, I don't know that there are a lot of choices for other players that I necessarily would have liked to have seen sit down so that that one guard piece could get onto the field. So, guess it's not the worst thing to be spoiled for choice. Got a little bit of action happening slightly off camera here. I say action, it's barely a little love tap. Nope, stand back. A love tap to prevent a bear hug, or lizard hug, as it were. Bears over here, bear hugging little bitty skinks. Or at least limbering up and getting ready to. So this is the second season in the league for our Lizardman coach. And last time around, he had a decent run with Skaven. It just didn't really suit him the way they played. Trying out Lizardmen this time around, and they generally do suit him better. Or many of our league mates have told him as much. Personally, I still think we need some more skinks on the team, but if he's making it do, he's making it do. All right, Kislev doing what Kislev do best, ending up on their backside. In all actuality, that was probably a pretty good shot. But if reroll had already been used, then there's not a whole lot you can do about that. Ones are going to happen. On the opposite side of the coin, as I switch around to his point of view, our Lizardman's opponent is a first-time member of our Get Medieval Blood Bowl League, and a very experienced tabletop coach. Oh, that hurts. That hurts bad because we already spent a reroll on the first single skull. So, lucky break for the Kislev. Now, this coach, again, brand new to the league, very experienced on the tabletop, though, and it took him a couple of games to really get cooking with the Kislev. It was a bit of a grind getting through our development ladder, and it seemed like he was losing players as fast as he could add them to the team or faster. But now he's hit that critical mass and really rocketed up in team value because he started getting some defensive skills on these Kislev that make it a little bit less scary to be running around with armor 8 pretty much at best, save for the armor 9 on the bear. I'd have to take a peek off screen here at his schedule for this season. I don't know how much of our bash contingent the Kislev have made it through so far this season. But the league in general has definitely taken a sharp turn towards agility teams this time around, and the increased survivability is noticeable for sure. So glancing back over our schedule here, it looks like, sort of what I suspected, the Kislev have not really faced our heavy hitting portion of our league. So we've got Lizardmen here. Next round will be against Dark Elves, and then things get a little heavier from there. We've got a match up against Chaos Dwarves. We got a match against Chaos, a match against my own hard-hitting Wood Elves, and then they close out the season against yet another Chaos team. So, that highest in the league team value might be in for a haircut over the last couple of weeks of the season. So, back on our action a bit. Our Skinks are holding up fairly well so far, managing to dodge and or sidestep away from every hit that's been thrown at them so far. Don't know how long that's going to hold up, but good for them so far. Looks like our Kislev are just about done for the round here. Whole lot of pushing and shoving, not a whole lot of results this turn. Taking a risk, shoving a Crocscore, and Crocscore chooses to stand firm. I'm not entirely sure I agree with that choice, but I suppose he gets a multi-die block going back the other way if he does stand still. So maybe it works. Now then, the Skinks have held up okay so far, but if they can find a way out of here, it would be a great time to do so. First things first, clearing some tackle zones off of our ball carrier. Oh, there's our skulls again. So we are into turn 3, and the Lizardmen are down to 2 rerolls, and the Slann slash Kislev slash whatever they want to call themselves, the guys that jump up in the air and fall down on their backsides, they are also down to 2 rerolls. Which might mean we're in for a sloppy end to the half. Alright, so our ball carrier is now clear to move. And I believe this would actually be a really good time to do so. If we could scamper all the way around over to here, perhaps, and link up with some Saurus. And now we've got a fairly well protected run at the end zone. Although, gotta be on your guard with the sneakiness of the Kislev. They're never afraid to jump around the field and end up in a position that is wholly unexpected from where you thought they were. In this case, the down players aren't really going to be able to get there. But this blitzer in particular looks like he's got a good shot to scramble out of there. And with dodge, again, I always have to check that icon and make sure it's different from catch. He might be better off not doing the leap to get there. But regardless, he's got plenty of movement. So this free runner isn't all that free just yet. Taking a look at things from our Kislev point of view. Checking in on our skink. Can't quite score this turn, but if we're not careful, he can end up out of reach and able to stall as long as he wants to within this first half. Which is, obviously, as the Kislev player, not what you want to have happen. If the Lizardmen are going to score here, you want them to do it quickly, and that way you have a chance to counter before the half. Ooh. You would think with all the diving tackle that is on the Kislev side of the operation here, that both coaches and obviously myself would have known to look for it there. But the dodge reroll helps us out. And we do get the blitz on the ball carrier and ball out. It's too bad that the ball didn't go into a friendlier location for either team. That's going to be not the easiest to recover for a few moments. Lots of big lizards around to come and say hello. But enough Kislev already in the area that it's going to take a couple of block rolls at the minimum to clear them out. And this guy looks like he's ready to come join the party as well. And indeed, he does exactly that. But we are now down to one reroll for the Slann / Kislev. I'm just going to pick a name and go with it. And we are only on turn 3 of the half. Well, jump up shows itself as handy for about a quarter of a second, and then right back down. Lizardmen waste no time in getting to work. And clearing off the ball a little bit, clearing off the pitch a little bit in that case. And trying to find themselves in a situation where our loner skink might have a shot at the ball again. Still have one blitzer that can't be pushed off. But Slatosaurus over there to make sure that he is aware that he is not welcome to stay. And then we'll take a look at what's going on back here. A couple more skinks joining the party. And this is not looking good for anyone that was hoping for a low-scoring game here. But we do have a failed dodge and a knockout for our last skink to get into the action, which means our one skink that didn't stand up did not get a shot at picking up the ball this round. Might not be enough to really swing the odds in the favor of the human / frog / circus team, but every little bit helps. Personally, I'd see one of these guys over here marking this Saurus. And, well, no, that that frog right here had to stand up to get into this position. I don't want to waste your blitz. I was kind of picturing losing track of how the game works. I was initially picturing this skink getting pushed in over here and chain pushing onto the ball, but number one, there's an open square over here, and number two, even if there wasn't, this skink has sidestep. They don't pay attention to normal blocking rules. I still feel like some form of a blitz into this area, hoping to pop the ball out, is the best that our Slann are going to be able to help for. But they could also just be saying, you know what, let's concentrate on some blocks, hope to knock some players out, and have things a little bit more slanted in our favor once we get back on the pitch after this drive is completed. All right. Well, we have achieved that. A level 4 skink down, which means 3 skinks remaining that are capable of moving the ball for the rest of the game. One of those being a loner. So this is definitely the kind of game where the battle of attrition is in favor of the Slann team. Not something that I feel like you're going to say very often. If for no other reason than the fact that the Slann aren't exactly the most popular of teams. All right, swapping back to our lizard point of view. Still looking fairly good for being able to pop out of here and maybe have ourselves a score this turn. Or not this turn necessarily, but to start the game with a first drive offensive success would not be outside the realm of possibility. As we could slide this blitzer over here. Yep, and now with this assist. Oh, this assist is not denied because of guard. But we can still knock that guard piece off. Just can't quite clear the blitzer without doing a one die block for it. And I guess spinning a reroll wouldn't be the worst thing here. You've kept half of them to the second half of the half, but I feel like a more important roll might be more appropriate for that, like a pickup perhaps. That's something that we definitely want to do. Find a way to get our hands on the ball. Not the safest slide out of here to snag the ball right now with the diving tackle, but all right, well, that happened. Wizard was spent and didn't really have any significant effect. Knocked the player down, but he can stand right back up. He can even jump up in place and still get a block without a blitz. I think that would have been a lot more useful at the beginning of the turn, but it's still a shot to potentially remove the player, so it's not something you want to actively avoid doing. I just think there might have been better times for it. So let's see what our Slann choose to do. Sure enough, we've got the jump up for a block onto our skink. And KO. So that leaves us with all of, yep, one skink. One loner skink on the field who is capable of even thinking about picking up the ball. Gratuitous block across the field. Grand scheme of things, doesn't really do much in either direction. So with the bonehead having triggered on the croc score last round, his tackle zones are off. So if we can blitz this skink off, the Kislev or Slann or whatever they are, the non-lizard team would have a free run at the ball. Meanwhile, this block over here doesn't look quite as gratuitous anymore, as our catcher did get a free run into the backfield to potentially catch a pass this turn or the next. And there's not really any lizards that can reach him, so he's just going to be a scoring threat that's just going to sit back there and taunt the enemy for the moment. Not entirely sure that's where I would have thrown that player, but you do you, I guess. The reason that kind of confuses me is, yes, you do clear this lineman up now, but I really would have liked to have seen a blitz against this skink and then find a way to slip this blitzer in. Oh, that skink is down. Okay, this camera angle kind of gets wonky. Can't really see who's up and who's down. This is very much in contrast to the 45-degree angle that I normally view from, but we've swapped over during our last stream to this view at some hints from some of our viewing audience. And see, it's already causing problems. Speaking of causing problems, our lizardmen have major problems, as they really need to find a way to stop this fellow from delivering the ball to his compatriot downfield, or from scoring it himself. As going into the second half at a head count disadvantage and down a score and having to kick off to the opponent, that all adds up to a recipe for sadness. Getting in a few blocks here and there, but nothing yet that is actually going to impact our ball carrier. That's a little bit confusing. One more go for it, and this guy could have been on the ball carrier instead, but I guess 2 dice is more of a risk than 1 die, if you want to try to justify the move there. I don't know. Sacrificial Skink is now teed up for somebody to come take a shot at. Not sure exactly who yet, but can't really see him sticking around there for long. The Slann do need to be A little bit cautious here, though. Can't do a whole lot of that patented leaping around the field, at least not safely, with no rerolls available. Swap things around again before I forget it. I'll get the hang of this eventually, guys. Just hang in there. I'll get used to moving the camera angles around from time to time. About the time I get myself a technical assistant that'll handle that for me and I can just watch and commentate instead of having to actually do all the dirty work of clicking buttons. Because, there's so much, so much work involved in just sitting here and pondering what my opponent, or in this case, one of the game participants, is thinking. And remember how I was saying it wouldn't really be safe to do a whole bunch of jumping around on the field when we don't have any rerolls left? Yeah, that right there is why. It's not the likeliest of things, but the door is now open for the Lizards to still score a touchdown in this half. One of the really important things that would need to happen for that, and needs to happen before anybody does anything else, including throw nice and juicy blocks, would be for this skink to pick up the ball and scamper himself downfield. Because, as we've seen a decent little bit in this match, that is something that is not the safest to do, to throw die after die out there. And now we've spent our reroll, and we were lucky that we were able to, throwing blocks for the loner and coming up with double skulls. And yet we are still risking rolling dice. And we might just activate almost every player on the team, other than our skink, who fails to do the pickup. Yeah, you've got loner. You're probably not going to be able to spend the reroll there anyway, but you've still got to prioritize it. You've got to try it. A couple extra blocks here or there are not going to break your game. Not managing to pick up the ball and not managing to get into scoring position, that breaks your game. Now, technically, we could end up in a situation where there is a pass, or more likely handoff, to one of these two Sarai that will be able to reach the end zone with a go for it or two. But the chances of clearing out enough of the Kislev players to have any hope of that handoff being successful are rather slim. Now, technically, the Kislev could still score. Not getting the down result there doesn't really help those chances, but it is possible. Yep, that's moving in the right direction for it. Okay. with dodge, I think I prefer dodging away from the tackle zone than uh, way more than leaping away from it. But you know, when everybody's got a hammer, you're gonna find yourself some nails, even if they're screws, because that could have happened instead. So, without any additional support, this blitz becomes important. And dodge gets us away. Now the skink can still reach back to here and should do so. And should do so before we throw any more blocks here, but not sure we agree on priorities between myself and the players participating in this game. Because that's a real simple score if you just let him be or fail a block and get forced in letting him be. And now it gets a little bit more complicated. Now we've got to do the leap in order to score. Still possible. Still should be the first thing they do. But it is more difficult than it was before moving the skink. So we're considering our options here. We do have this blitzer here who can and should jump up into a blitz on this skink. See if you can get him off the pitch. See if you can make it just a simple dodge roll away for Dart to get a score. Yep, we saw it. All right. Tackle says, I don't care about your dodge. But we wrestle instead. Okay. Well, it still makes the score easy, even if you passed up on an opportunity to remove the skink from the pitch. Of course, it's easy for me sitting here on the sidelines to make that call. You know, I don't have the responsibility of making sure that that score happens within a ticking down 3-minute clock. Okay. So we took a block over here, got ourselves a KO out of it. I just hope to see that not come back to bite the Kislev or Slann or whoever they are, and it does not. All right, on to halftime, and let's see how many of those lizards wake up. We had the 2 skinks and 1 saurus in the KO box. And 2 wake ups, so it's still somewhat of a game as we start the second half. 11 on 9, I believe. Yep, that is indeed the head count. We are back to 2 skinks capable of picking up a ball one of which is Loner. Now, the one thing that the Lizardmen have going for them in a situation such as this, they may not have a lot of skinks available to fill in the gaps once a couple get knocked out, but they do have a solid wall of muscle. Block as far as the eye can see, with the exception of the Croc score. He's strength 5. That kind of counts the same as block. Not really, but it's a little closer than just generic lineman there in the middle. So it'll be interesting to see how the Slann approach this. They are up 1 score already. They could go full defense and just say, you know what, I'm just going to keep the ball away from you and look for an opening. They could find themselves with a place to poke a hole in the Lizardmen lines and bust through and score quickly and just say, you know what, I'm literally going to make it impossible for you to catch me here. I will say, regardless of the result, before the end of this drive, whether it ends with a Slann or a Lizardman touchdown, I'm going to say that one of those skinks, if not both, end up removed from the pitch. Our Slann team seems to have really had their target priority in the right place, taking those guys out. So the second half is going to be a little bit shorter than the first half of the game. Both less players to move on a given turn, as well as one less turn to be played with the Riot having taken 1 turn out of it. So it does look like we're going to be a bit more aggressive this time around. And that may not pay off as our tame bear proves himself not quite as tame as you'd like, resulting in a bonehead and leaving a Croxagore on his feet and based with the front of your cage to be. So our Slann are now scrambling to figure out what a plan B might look like in this situation. Who to put where. And how not to have this game go completely sideways over one bad bonehead roll. Slann offense continues to come up empty here. Which, frankly, from a competitive standpoint, is probably for the best because one, maybe 2 more removals, and this ends up not really being a game. Forces the one die block that ends up actually succeeding. Even then, it's just a knockdown. No armor break, no stun. Fairly uneventful turn other than just consolidating forces. And I think this is where, as the Lizardman coach, you'd love to have that wizard back. Drop a fireball right here in the middle of the formation would make this a lot more manageable of a situation. All right, wouldn't be the best of opportunities, but unless we use the SARS. That's right, we do have more strength out there. So the Slann consolidation pays off. Wrestle does not hold up for keeping the ball in their possession, but a friendly scatter does leave it well defended and out of Lizardman's hands. Oof. Bonehead has not been friendly here. And Mr. Goliath just does not want to participate in this match. Maybe it's just because he's staring at his twin across the line. Our Slann coach has referred to the tame bear as his Croxagore on multiple occasions, as they do match pretty much identically on the base skills and base stats. The difference is the Lizardman Croxagore actually wants to participate in the game today. A little bit of deliberation here on the part of the Slann, trying to figure out what our best move here is going to be, I suppose. A little bit of a lull in the action here, but we'll hit something eventually, right? Right? Can't really blame them at all, but it looks like the Slann are taking the opportunity to shift their cage over and slide away from their tame bear, who isn't really contributing to the fight anyway, not really holding up his bargain of anchoring the center of the line. Sure, he's still on his feet, but it's just because there were better targets for the Lizardmen last time around. Alright, so let's see what our lizards do. Really need to find a way to break into the cage. And an injury will move things in the right direction. So that's one less player that can participate in the cage. The Kislev have players to spare, but can't make a substitution until a score ends the drive. So, for the moment, the player advantage that the Kislev, Slann, whatever, I'm still intermixing the terms, and we're starting turn 12 here. But the numerical advantage of the Slann is diminished a bit. And I believe we are 9 on 10 now. Yes, 9 on 10. Call it 9 on 9.5 if you expect the tame bear to continue to fail bonehead rolls over here. Personally, I don't know that I would really want to go toe-to-toe with all of these Saurus over here. I might look at taking this tame bear and throwing a block here, or Blitz can have the similar effect, I suppose. But shifting the cage over and sort of leaving these guys to their own devices against the Sauri that they have set up marks on, or been marked by, depending on which point of view you're coming at it from. That moving our cage over this way would probably be a better result overall. Is you're not going to clear these guys out this turn. You don't want to pin yourself up against the sideline over here. So headed over into this general vicinity is really the only option available to the Slann if they want to start advancing the ball upfield, and I really think there's no reason not to. That does appear to be exactly what they are going to do. That's not to say that the lizards can't reach them here, but this guy would take a go for it to get there. This guy's tied up. Can be cleared with a single block, but this guy's tied up. This guy's down, so he's not getting there. Crocsgore's down, so he's not getting there. So scratch that. We did clear this guy up. But we also got ourselves another set of tackle zones, including diving tackle onto this skink. So, at this point, it looks like we are saying that we have good enough position. You're already going to be able to blitz with one of the Saurus as it is. Might as well leave that as your really only good block for the turn. And not offer up any of this AV8 to get munched on elsewhere in the field. So the Saurus make their blitz kind of count. No removals, but busted in and got a tackle zone on our ball carrier. So that's something. Probably a good move to have thrown in a couple of extra big bodies over here, because otherwise I really could have seen a block against the skink that just threw a block and a blitz against the other. And even with the Saurus in the cage there, quick little handoff to one of these guys and scamper down the field, and the Slann could have been sitting pretty and able to score at will. But with the Saurus sliding down and covering the back end of the play, that looks a little less likely now. Well, I was going to call that a really efficient block in removing 2 cage marks with 1 block, but we pushed the Saurus down the line and left him engaged because we wanted to throw an extra block at him. I guess if you're hunting star player points, that kind of makes sense, but I don't know. I'm sort of of the mindset that you take the win first and then you get the level ups where you can along the way. Seeing as this is most definitely not our development league, this is our top end competition for Get Medieval Blood Bowl. I don't think making moves in the name of player development is a recipe for success. Again, mostly personal opinion there. All right, and one more injured skink and a missed next game, no less. Trying to remember what our previous injury was over here. just badly hurt, but still, depending on the uh, winnings roll at the end of the match for the Lizardmen, they might be able to replace one of their skinks. Replace the one that died last week, but the missed next game will still be out, so they'll be in a worse situation next week than they are now, in that they'll have 2 developed skinks, 1 loner skink, and perhaps 1 rookie team member skink. I know there's only so much you can do in a given game week, but I feel like every gold coin that the Lizardmen are able to pick up for the rest of the season needs to go towards buying more skinks. Even if that means that you lose a Saurus and you don't replace them. As squishy as those skinks can be, at some point you need to be able to throw bodies at the problem. Speaking of throwing bodies at the problem, let's see how the Lizardmen try to work their way into this little fortified side cage. I would think the answer would be to take this guy and blitz in. But hey, we can go for it and get roughly the same result. I do like the push there towards the sideline. Generally a fan of that anyway, as anytime you can pin somebody up against the sideline, it makes the dodge rolls to get away even harder. In this case, it forms a additional advantage that even if you found a way to push this Saurus back, if he doesn't go down, that body sitting there blocks off that angle, and our ball carrier would have to come into and then back out of his tackle zones, so long as whatever block is thrown at him doesn't actually take him down. And now it's the Lizard's turn to fail a bonehead. Alright, so turn 14. Really starting to look like the question is not who wins or who loses, but how much the Slann win by. And as much as I did like what was going on here, that's all thought of in the assumption that we're just dealing with a run-of-the-mill human-style team here, and we're not. Our catcher can easily just leap over the pile and take one dodge roll headed towards the end zone. Curious to see how far the Slann will push their luck before trying exactly that. You have to know that it's coming, though, right? There's almost an opportunity for a blitz on this Saurus that would end up putting this skink out of bounds with a push. But there's nobody filling this gap here, and you don't want to use the ball carrier to do that, really. Especially not when it would most likely be a half a die block on the Saurus. Hey, we're still going to blitz somewhere. I think it's time for a leap and score. Anybody else agree? Maybe, possibly. Bueller. Bueller. From here, you only need the leap. You don't even need the dodge roll. It fails, but this time we have rerolls available. And hey, look at that. Leap and score. That's so inspiring. I might have my wood elves do that. Although, a little less of the silly dancing. Alright, so, for there to be any hope of any kind of comeback, we definitely need that skink to wake up. He does so. Odds are still very much against the Lizardman, but I suppose there's kind of a chance. Definitely a chance for him to get on the board and get something out of this. Because at the moment, Lizardman are going to walk away with 7 star player points, 5 for their MVP and 2 for the single injury that they have caused in the match. Not exactly stellar development when they missed out on their MVP for last week. I think the heartbreaking move, and I'm hoping not to get the streamer's dice involved, considering it's not my team being played, but I could really see the luck going against the Lizardmen here and the MVP role ending up going to the single loner skink on the team. Of course, that would just mean that they should actually hire that player and keep them as opposed to hiring a Joe Schmo off the street that doesn't have those 5 MVP points, but it's not exactly guaranteed to go down that way. So, Kislev or Slann or again, whatever they are, they use kick to their advantage and drop the ball back here in the back corner. Lack of a riot, giving that lost turn from earlier back, makes this even less likely for the Lizardmen to pull off a heroic upset. But it's possible, especially considering the fact that there are 3 turns remaining, and their best bet for the Lizardmen would be to score, and then with a bit of time remaining, pull off a blitz that would give a essentially untimed turn on top of everything else. That would be their best avenue towards a win, but failing to pick up the ball in your own backfield kind of puts a nail in that. They're not going to be able to score on turn 15, as didn't get the ball to the skink up front, and he didn't get within scoring range. He's going to be several squares short, which means the Lizardmen's best chance to score before the end of the game, or only chance at this point, would be in turn 16 and would not have any added time in the match after that. So at this point, it's just about getting in a couple extra blocks and hunting for star player points now. Mentioned earlier, I wasn't a fan of doing a whole lot of that, but once the match is settled, then sure, go ahead hunting. All right. So again, I'm more okay with this now than I was earlier. Oof. Niggle on a lineman. It's turn 15. Yeah, you use the apothecary there, I believe. No. So it looks like the Slann are kind of accepting the idea that their team is due to take some casualties and trim their team value a little bit. I feel like there's not really a whole lot of good places on a team to have a niggling injury, but having it land on a lineman that you theoretically are putting in harm's way at the start of every drive is sort of a fast track towards being down a player. I know there are some more developed folks on the team, like our blitzers in particular, and our catcher, that the Slann player wants to protect. But at this late point in the match, I'm kind of confused about not spending the apothecary there. Well, that's just kind of a little icing on the cake there. Not really sure what the point of the go for it's and pickups there were, other than just to say, yes, we were able to do it. But hey, you picked up the ball. Congratulations. Nothing else will happen to it because it's turned 16. Nobody could have gotten it. Whatever. Play the game your way, I suppose. Few last blocks coming in for the Slann, just to kind of wrap things up here. And they snag an injury. Miss next game for Osiris. So